This is News 8 This Morning.
Good morning to you on this Thursday. We begin with this. This is a live look. The casket of late Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis, now at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. It is a flag-draped casket, as you can see. Some people surrounding it right now. His funeral is going to take place later this morning.
Talking about the plans for how this memorial is going to go down here. His funeral service will take place this morning at 8 a.m. our time. Again, at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. And this, by the way, is the same church that Martin Luther King Jr. once preached at. Those two were very close, we know that. So we're going to have more on this throughout the morning. You know, when you look back on the life of John Lewis, was just such a powerful spirit he was. And one of the quotes that I've seen recently from one of his speeches that I think is so important for where we are right now, especially given the pandemic, quote, "Be hopeful, be optimistic, never lose that sense of hope," end quote. An American icon, he will be missed and he will be celebrated here today, his life impacting so many Americans.
And also 3 former presidents will attend, including former Presidents Barack Obama, George Bush, and Bill Clinton. They will all travel to Atlanta for today's funeral.
We'll be following those developments here. Here at home, boy, things are really going to be cranking up heat-wise in the county.
That is our top story this morning. So Heather, give it to us. Just how warm is it going to get?
Yeah, the good news is there is a place to cool down, and that'll be right along the coastline as we get into the afternoon today. So don't worry, you won't completely have to sweat it out across the county. Everywhere else, though, get ready for the heat. Tomorrow's the day the temperatures will actually spike across the county. So beginning at 11 o'clock this morning for our inland and mountain communities, we'll be under a heat advisory. At the same time, an excessive heat warning is in place in our local desert. Today's afternoon high temperature 70s at the beaches. That's not bad, but we're into the 90s for most of our inland communities, including Escondido, Poway, El Cajon, and Ramona. 100 degrees in Julian, 116 in the desert. And again, just be careful out there. We will start to see the temperatures back down as we get into about Monday of next week, and we'll talk more about that coming up. Let's get to Jenny.
Still a little bit busy out there. You can see we've got a couple of icons out there. 163 heading southbound right near the 52, so right over here. That left-hand shoulder continues to be blocked. Crews are working on an earlier crash. You can see, though, your travel times here are fine, really across the board, not impacted by any of the things you're seeing here. 805 traveling northbound right near that exit ramp to the 8. There is a ladder in the road, so single lane is blocked. Here, there's a stalled car. There's actually a little bit of an uptick in your travel times here. So northbound on the 15, right at El Cajon, that stall is blocking the very first lane. So probably people are scooting around to avoid it. Over on the 5 northbound side, right at the 56, that third lane is blocked. There's a tire in the road. And don't forget, there is reduced visibility up to the north. 78, your drive through Escondido, and both north and southbound on the 15. Eric.
Jenny, thanks. Let's get to the latest on the coronavirus fight here. The county reported 6 new community outbreaks. There have been 24 of these outbreaks in the last 7 days. That's actually triple the state trigger of 7. 282 new cases of coronavirus were reported, along with 5 new deaths. 4% of the 6,900 tests were positive. San Diego's 2-week average positivity rate now at 5.5%. We have team coverage this morning as health officials are implementing new measures.
News 8's Chris Groh is live along the Embarcadero at the County Administration Building with new plans in the works to track and help minorities. But first, let's go ahead and check in with Netta Rampor. She's live with a new measure starting today aimed at protecting all employees. Good morning, Netta.
Good morning. You know, county leaders are stepping up their enforcement. They're also now requiring businesses to let their employees know if there's been any COVID-19 cases or any outbreaks at their place of work. We also want to talk about what happened here. We're at Awaken Church, in fact, across the street on Balboa, and this parking lot was pretty full yesterday. I know we've been talking about worships taking place outside. Well, this church says they have their services streaming online. That's what they've posted on their websites, their Facebook and Instagram, but that certainly did not appear to be only the case last night. It looked like people were worshiping right here. Yeah, you can see this mass gathering at this mega church in Kearney Mesa with little to no social distancing. Our crews were here last night, and you can see basically just one person wearing a mask from our footage. There was also that mass religious gathering on Cardiff State Beach, attracting thousands of people over the weekend. Local leaders say they've been working with the churches. You know, the main message is no indoor services. A lot of them have been taking their services outdoor, but of course they still need to maintain social distance, wear face covers, especially if people are singing and preaching as well. Now, local leaders are coming under increasing criticism for not acting quickly or forcefully enough when it comes to egregious violations. So county leaders say the vast majority of businesses across San Diego are abiding by the public health order. For those which blatantly disregard it, enforcement is about to be increased. The crackdown includes a new anonymous hotline as well as new compliance teams, which we've been reporting on. Also new county leaders revising the public health order requiring employers to inform all their workers of any COVID cases or outbreaks at their place of business. This new mandate going into effect at midnight, so starting today.
We believe that most entities are acting responsibly and notifying their employees. But with the growing number of outbreaks we're seeing, we are going to go the extra step to ensure that employees are notified if there was an outbreak and by their employer.
Also, the county yesterday confirming an outbreak at a popular San Diego gym. This one, you may have seen it off the 5 in Garnett in Pacific Beach. It's called The Gym. The county had ordered the gym to immediately close last week. The gym continued operating, but it is now closed. Wilma Wooten saying this was a perfect storm. They had to require the business to close. And then yesterday, they were on the outbreak list. Last week, and they were trying to get them to close, they didn't know that there was an outbreak occurring at that gym. Again, an outbreak is any cases of 3 or more with people that are not in the same household. By the way, we should point out the Awaken Church website. They say, you know, open your home to host a Sunday watch party, invite your friends and neighbors over, have lunch and watch their streaming service. That, of course, is also something that county leaders have urged people not to do. But again, they did have their service worship going on here at the parking lot last night. So county leaders are saying they are working with individual churches at this point. That's all we know about what happened here. That's the latest. We'll send it back to you.
Netta, thank you. There are new plans in the works to track and help minorities through the coronavirus pandemic. It includes hiring more Spanish-speaking contact tracers.
And News 8's Chris Groh joins us live with that part of the story here. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning, Eric and Stella. And that's what county supervisors yesterday said that they wanted to attempt to do, to hire more Spanish-speaking contact tracers, because as we all know, COVID-19 has especially ravaged the South Bay communities and especially Latino families and communities. So they want to hire more Spanish-speaking and Latino contact tracers. However, the Chicano Federation has said that they have failed to do so during this pandemic. In fact, the leader of the Chicano Federation even went as far to say that the county lied when it previously said that they would hire contact tracers that represented the community, and that the community has failed Latinos in every step of this pandemic. Now, to give you an idea of the issue, Latinos make up about 35% of the San Diego County population. However, they make up 61% of those hospitalized in the county for COVID-19 and account for 45% of the recorded deaths due to the virus. The Chicano Federation and other activists want the breakdown of contact tracing hires to represent those demographics and not of the overall county population. Therefore, they are calling on the county to hire more contact tracers from the Latino community. Of course, contact tracing involves calling someone that may have tested positive or anyone that may have come into contact with someone that tested positive to try to trace the origin of a potential outbreak or a family spread. By hiring more Latinos or those that speak Spanish, the idea is that the county would have a more accurate picture of what's happening in their community, what they are seeing, and they can respond more efficiently.
We have had a very diverse workforce of individuals who've come in, but COVID is not impacting the population at the demographics of population. We know there is a disproportionate impact of COVID, particularly in the Latino community. And so our aim and effort is to have contact tracers who match not the demographics of the population, but the demographics of our positive cases.
And look, this is a movement that a lot of activists are calling for. You heard there the county Supervisor Nathan Fletcher saying that that is something that they want to try to accomplish, but they are not immune from criticism, so to speak. We know that Reverend Shane Harris, a well-known activist here in the San Diego community, is going to have a media briefing later on today around 1 o'clock to specifically call on the county to do more and to criticize them for their lack of diversifying their hiring process there for contact tracing employees. Eric and Stella.
Markets just opened a short time ago, and we just got those jobless claim report numbers, the new updated numbers here.
Diane Kinghall joins us live from New Jersey. So what are the numbers saying?
So good morning, Stella. Let me give you a recap of markets first and talk to you about why markets are, in fact, under pressure this morning within the first 10 minutes of trading. So the Dow right now dropping 337 points. NASDAQ under pressure as well, down 50. S&P 500 also down after a batch of weak economic data. You had a record drop in GDP. The economy contracted 32.9%. Some call it a self-inflicted wound as the economy shut down during the second quarter due to the coronavirus pandemic. Meantime, let's talk labor market. Americans continue to file for unemployment benefits in droves. According to the Labor Department, more than 1.4 million Americans signed up for jobless claims last week. That was more than expected. Claims have been increasing again in recent weeks as states pause reopenings amid a spike in coronavirus cases. Rent is due for millions of Americans. Less than a week ago, a ban on evictions in buildings with mortgages backed by the government was lifted, and a flood of eviction filings are hitting courts nationwide. This month, 21% of renters didn't pay any rent, according to Apartment List, and landlords are now seeking reparation for more than $21.5 billion in overdue rent. And JetBlue is testing a new cleaning system on its planes using ultraviolet light. Honeywell's UV cabin system is roughly the size of a beverage cart and features UVC robotic arms that can scan the aircraft's cabin in less than 10 minutes. Some studies have shown that UVC light can reduce certain bacteria and viruses. 8 devices have been delivered to JetBlue for testing in New York and Fort Lauderdale. The airline says it will still continue its other cleaning methods during the 90-day pilot program. Eric and Stella.
Look, the more they can do on that, the more cleaning efforts they can do, the sanitizing efforts, using the light, I think the better, and the safety for the passengers, you know, because they're in tight quarters there on those airplanes.
Yes. Exactly. I am all for this. Let's throw everything at it and see what we come up with.
Thanks,
exactly, Diane. Thank you. Meanwhile, a vote is set for next week could mean much needed relief for small business owners. San Diego City Council is set to vote on a $700,000 proposal to offset the financial impact of the coronavirus pandemic. City leaders say the money would come from the Small Business Relief Fund and shared with businesses in underserved communities, that is. Well, for parents stressing about the incoming school year, Councilmember Chris Kay is proposing a handful of solutions.
Among the Republicans' proposals are that California parents should get a child care tax credit and a stipend to pay for homeschool or distance learning costs. And here he is with us to speak more on this. Thanks for being here with this morning, Councilmember. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
So your proposal is being praised by a lot of parents who don't feel like local leaders and even their own companies are taking into account the huge burden parents are facing, having their kids once again stay home with them. Who are you hoping takes action on this? The council, the districts? Who could do something about this?
We're hoping that policymakers at either the local level or the state level look at these options as potential solutions to figure out how to maneuver through the upcoming school year. Obviously, at the local level, any of our school district governing board members should hopefully look at this and consider these as options. These are things that we have heard loud and clear from parents over the last few weeks since the school district announced that they were going to online-only education. And as you mentioned, these are parents and families who are not only trying to figure out how to provide for their families through their jobs and their work, but now have to be given the burden of figuring out how to provide quality education to their kids, knowing full well that their experience with online learning in the spring didn't go over so well.
You know, your proposal points out homeschool parents are given thousands of dollars in tax dollars for educational expenses. Well, parents will be homeschooling, so you think parents doing distance learning should also get that financial help?
Absolutely. And what we try to do with our proposal is outline solutions for both in-person learning and for online learning. And if we're going to go to online learning, how can we make it better? And one of the things that's right off the bat we understand is that the ability to provide education for your kids at home comes at an exorbitant cost, whether that be through just internet or supplies, what have you, from a educational standpoint, but also for the fact that there are parents who may have to give up on hours of work to be able to be home. And that comes at a reduced earning potential for them. And meanwhile, they're having to pay for additional costs. So whether that's a stipend or some type of tax credit from the state that says we're going to be able to cover your costs that you spend to be able to educate your child, that will provide an exorbitant amount of relief for parents who have to start paying out of pocket now to be able to provide this type of education.
Yeah, it will be a financial strain, that's for sure. Tell us about the open air classrooms you're proposing. We do have nice weather here, but one of my Twitter followers here points out he's married to a teacher. He messaged me to ask, how can dozens of kids be outside with no computers or whiteboards, moving all the supplies, dealing with the wind? Is this something you've taken into consideration?
I think we're only contained by our imagination, to be quite honest. I think there are a lot of companies who are doing this right now, who are looking outside, whether that's electrical equipment or internet access. I mean, we have Wi-Fi, so I think we're only contained by our imagination to be able to have classrooms outdoor. And we know that this isn't a new thing. I mean, the country did this in the lead up to World War II, try to relieve the impact of tuberculosis. This isn't anything new. We're not thinking outside the box here when it comes to this. I think this is something, at least in San Diego, where we have 261 good weather days a year, is something that we should be considering. And everyone who I talk to seems like this is a no-brainer, whether that's going into the shade, putting up canopies, Wi-Fi extenders. I mean, these are all things that we can do if we are imaginative about it and figure out a way to get to yes to do it. If this is really important for us to figure out solutions to have classes in person and allow for kids to not be left behind because of the loss of learning that they could experience.
I have your proposal here in hand, and this is kind of disturbing. You say since school closures in March, reports are that about 50% of students from low-income families didn't even log in once for distance learning. That's not good.
Yeah, that goes back to the concern I brought up about loss of learning. If you go back to Hurricane Katrina, one of the things that we know is that the learning loss that occurred after Hurricane Katrina, it took 2 years to recover from. And we do know that this digital divide and online learning does impact low-income neighborhoods the most, whether that be for a lack of quality internet access, whether that be a lack of folks in the home to be able to provide that quality education supervision to their families or to their kids. And these are all barriers to have a quality education. And that is something that is a huge concern for myself and others. And that's how are we going to be able to provide that quality education that does not leave anybody behind and move forward in a positive direction. So, that's something that I think the end goal should be to get into the classroom to be able to provide that education, that quality education to our kids. But if we can't do that for whatever reason, how can we best mitigate any learning loss that could come from that and having that distance learning? That's why I put in things like, having that type of individual in the classroom to assist the teacher. The teacher doesn't feel comfortable being in the classroom. Can we hire a college graduate and have the teacher Zoom into the classroom just so that the kids are coming together and congregating together and getting that experience and that ability to be with another child in that classroom setting.
Yeah, Councilmember Chris Kate, thanks for joining us this morning. Both Stella and I have tweeted out your proposal if parents are interested in looking further at it. Thanks again for your time. We're going to take a quick break.